Kenwood.
Well, it looks like the folks at Kenwood have been busy coming up with new and innovative products, and one such product is one you may not expect. In fact, it is a dual camera system meant for motorsports. We have Mr. Josh Bowen in the studio with us. Now, Josh, what was the purpose of developing this interesting camera system specifically for the motorsports market?
So the purpose really comes from wanting to consistently evolve our markets. If we don't evolve markets, then we'll eventually die out, as we've seen happen with so many other companies. The reality is that means that helps our dealers to also grow their markets too. And when we took a look at this, we noticed that there was a system that was being used, but it was a system that was traditionally created for an entirely different purpose that's just being multi-purposed. So our thought was we could create a great camera system that benefits customers in the marine and motorsports environments to have a system like this.
All right, Josh, well, help me understand a little bit because, when we think about Kenwood, I'd be hard pressed not to say we think about car audio and source units and amps and speakers. So for me, this is a little bit of a departure. So where is the history with Kenwood when it comes to camera devices then?
That's honestly completely understandable because traditionally when people think Kenwood, they think radios or receivers, right? But a lot of times our dealers often forget that we're a full line manufacturer. Since the beginning of us entering the car audio game, which was essentially when car audio began, we've always offered receivers, amps, and speakers. And in the late 90s and early 2000s, when the multimedia movement happened and we started seeing receivers that had screens on them, we also started making cameras because we needed something to be able to have a backup view, right? So we started making backup cameras as early as the early 2000s. And from there, we began to expand that lineup even further, and we started introducing dash cameras, right? So we have the DRV N520, which is probably one of our most iconic dash cameras with the integration into our receivers, but also the great quality that comes out of it. And even more recently, when we introduced the CMOS 740 HD, which is our high dynamic range HD backup camera that really produces one of the best images that I've ever seen. So when you think about the big picture and kind of take a step back to look at Kenwood as a whole, it makes sense to me that we would also have something like this too.
Thank you for the insight, Josh, but I have to admit, you have my curiosity piqued. So let's get into it. When I'm looking at this kit, what exactly are the components that it comprises of? What can we expect to get in the box?
So I want to kind of go back to what I said at the very beginning and the first question when I said that there is an action sports camera that motorcycle riders and other types of vehicles are currently using, but they're using it outside of the realm it was intended to be created. And that's because there's a lot of cons for these environments that the STZ was created for. So when I tell you what's included in the box, it's because there were needs that weren't being met currently. So inside of the box, you'll find two cameras, one for the front and one for the rear of the vehicle, which is where the other systems that are being used kind of lacked. They only offered one view. Outside of that, we'll also have a switch, which allows us to create manual recordings, for example, but also access Wi-Fi pairing mode. My favorite thing, since I'm from the tech side, is it also helps us to see any error codes. If there's an error code that's popped up, it's displayed on the switch. There's a main DVR unit where all of the components connect to, which should be installed in a centrally located section on the vehicle it's being installed in. And last but not least, there's a GPS antenna, which provides a lot of important information we need whenever we're using a system like this on these types of vehicles.
Well, now you have my appetite all wet and ready to go. So can you bring it already? What exactly are the features of this really cool motorsports camera system then?
Okay, so I'm going to put it like this. I always introduce this product with a fun story to go behind it. Let's say that you had something like a GoPro and then you had a dash camera. And then the GoPro and the dash camera fell in love and they had babies. That's exactly what this is because it has features from both sides of that world. A GoPro, for example, being an action sports camera. This STZ kit has a high dynamic range system, full HD resolution, and an electronic image stabilization built into it. That's essential for Harley Davidsons or other motorcycles, for example, that have a large engine that creates a lot of vibrations. But outside of that, even on vehicles like jet skis or side-by-sides that will be introduced to some pretty rough terrains, that electronic image stabilization does a great job of creating a smooth image throughout that whenever you're reviewing it for playback. Outside of that, it also has those dash camera properties. So it has a built-in G sensor. And if there's any kind of an impact detected, it'll store that video in a separate file. That way it's easier to reference, but also it protects it. That way you don't have to worry about it getting overwritten because this is a DVR. Whereas the single camera action sports solutions I was telling you about earlier will have an SD card that's inserted, but once that card fills up, it stops recording. So then the riders miss that. With our system being a DVR, that means it's just going to consistently make space for you and start deleting recordings that have been on that card for some time. It also has that GPS antenna, which helps to provide latitude, longitude coordinates, and time and date stamps. So let's say, for example, you have the STZ system installed on a motorcycle, and then somebody backs into you at a red light. Cops show up, they tell the cops it's your fault. You can pull that up on your phone on the spot because we also have an app that we created for it. And then you can show that footage to that officer in real time at that moment, export it with the appropriate information to prove that you're where you say you were and it happened when you say it happened. It's packed full of all kinds of great features, even on the IPX ratings, to make sure that the cameras and the DVR unit can survive in all of the elements that it's been introduced to.
I'm not going to lie, I'm kind of blown away with all the features you just described there, but I can't get the image of a GoPro and a dash cam getting it on. But anyhow, let's talk about the takeaway features and benefits, or really the user experience that the rider benefits from once installed.
So our goal behind this was we wanted to create a solution for riders of all types of vehicles, whether it's 2 wheels or in some cases 4 wheels, that was going to be an out of sight, out of mind, easy to operate system. With the solutions that riders are currently using today, say for example a standalone action sports camera, they have to worry about having batteries that are charged or enough SD cards to change them out if one fills up. This is, as soon as the vehicle turns on, automatically starts recording so that you don't have to worry about ever missing a moment. It ties into the factory electrical system, so you don't have to worry about recharging batteries either. As soon as you turn it on and start going, you know that the system's on and working because that switch gives you an on indication so that you can see that visibly if you need to. With the app that we created, it's incredibly easy to use, regardless of Android or an iPhone. And to take it a step further, if you take that SD card out, which is removable and upgradable up to 256 gigabytes, you can put that into your PC, whether it's Mac or Windows, and then you can use our PC viewer, which opens up even more features, allowing you to see the map from when the video was recorded, shows you in real time where you were and how fast you were going. Plus, you can view front and rear videos at the same time. Our goal behind this was for users to have a great, easy interaction and an enjoyable experience with this product. And I think we nailed it.